Hi Divine Souls, this is Nana Nguyen. Welcome to Twin Flame Journey 3D to 5D. This channel is about love, relationship, and twin flames from a 5D perspective, which is a spiritual galactic point of view. In this broadcast, I want to share with you some important insights regarding twin flame miscommunication issues. I've come to notice that many twin flames, they struggle with communicating and they get into a lot of disagreements because of the miscommunication issues. So I've identified 6 of the main causes for this problem. So you want to write down some notes because it's going to help you gain awareness of the communication breakdown in your connection, or if you're interacting with other twin flames. This is going to help you understand yourself more and how you can relate with other twin flames, whether they are your counterpart or whether they are part of the twin flame collective. Okay, so let's begin with the issue number 1. Many twin flames, especially if they are your counterpart, you guys incarnate with opposing states of consciousness, meaning that there's a big polarity in your states of consciousness. One twin flame will be very emotionally immature, and the other twin flame will be a bit more emotionally mature than the other one. So usually it is the DF that is emotionally mature. It doesn't matter if the DF is in a male body. Gender is not really relevant. It's the energy that matters. So one will be more emotionally mature and the other one is emotionally immature. This is very important for you to understand. Make note of that. This has a huge role and impact in the way you communicate and relate to each other. The second is, a lot of the time, many of these twin flames are also having different cultures, different upbringing. So one will be from a culture that's very open, very expressive, and very sometimes the culture is very open in terms of expressing its feelings, and the other twin flame will be from a culture that's very close. Okay, so the other twin flame will be very close and repressed and not very expressive in expressing his or her feelings. Another example will be one twin flame will be from a religion that is, let's say, believing only in one God. The other twin flame will be from a religion such as Hinduism that believes in many gods. Sometimes it could be a twin flame that believes in no God, an atheist, and the other one believes in a God. So it's these polarity, these differences that makes it very difficult for twin flames to have a solid communication relationship with each other, because you have very different points of view, different world views, and you understand each other from different perspectives. And on top of that, if you're from different cultures and English is your second language, that becomes a problem too, because now there's a language barrier. Sometimes one twin flame, their English is much stronger than another twin flame where English is a second language and they're from a different country and they're not that strong in their English language skills. So therefore now you have this language barrier where when one twin flame is communicating one thing, but the other person is understanding another thing depending on their level of awareness and how well they understand the language. So that's another communication barrier. So due to these polarity in your state of consciousness, it makes it very difficult for you guys to be able to relate to one another. So I'm going to give you some tips how to get around this issue, okay? So let's say if you are in a connection where one twin flame is a Muslim and the other one is not a Muslim. The one that is not a Muslim, is very important for them to start to understand the religion, Islam, more in-depthly. So that way you can understand the mind frame of this religion and the way the culture is, the way they think, because then you can understand your twin flame much more deeper. You understand why they do the things they do, why they have the values they have. That's very important for you to understand too, is that these twin flames will have opposing values as well too. So it makes it even more difficult for you to get along with your twin flame, because due to the opposing values. So that will help you to understand your twin flame a lot better. So I had a consultation one time with a twin flame, and her counterpart is a Muslim and she isn't. And she couldn't understand why he was so different with her compared to other girls. With other girls, he would like take photos of them and post them on Instagram. And with her, he would be very conservative. He would cover her up. He wouldn't take her anywhere to show off her body, and she would get jealous. She would get insecure. She didn't understand why he was so different with other girls, but with her, he was completely the opposite. He was very protective, very possessive, and was always trying to cover her up. And I had to explain to her that Muslim guys, when it comes to their wives, they're very possessive and they're very protective. They don't like to show their wives to anybody, and they want their women to be protective of their body and of their beauty. So if he's doing this with you, it means that he puts you in a different category. He doesn't want you to show off your body to the world. He doesn't want you to be doing those type of activity because he sees you in a different light. These other girls that he's showing on Instagram, he's flaunting their bodies and stuff, that he doesn't care for them. He's not going to take these girls home to his family, show to his family, because that's not a part of the Muslim culture. They don't do that. So when I explained that to her, she understood, oh, okay, he sees me more like his wife. That's why he's like this. I'm like, yeah, you really need to understand the Muslim culture so that way you can understand your counterpart more. So you have to do this type of work when it comes to understanding your twin flame, so that way you can understand why they behave so differently and you understand more of their culture and their values. Another example will be, let's say one twin flame is more emotionally mature and the other one is emotionally immature. You now have to figure out how to talk to a person who is emotionally immature. They have a different state of consciousness because they are emotionally stunted. They take things differently than a person who is emotionally mature. So that both of you process information, process wounds and triggers differently. A person who is more emotionally mature, when it comes to dealing with triggers and trauma, they process it like an adult. They're able to handle it, they're able to talk about their feelings openly, and they're not reactive. Versus a person who is unhealed, who is emotionally immature, they're going to get very reactive. They're going to get very defensive. They're going to get argumentative. They're only going to see it from one point of view, and it's only their point of view. They're going to try to make and position themselves to be right and your point of view to be wrong. This is a very emotionally immature person. So you have to get around and talk to these people and get to their conscious to make them see from a different point of view. It's not easy. So this connection is going to force you to level up in your communication skills big time. This is what I had to do in my journey, that 10 years ago I didn't have the emotional maturity. I didn't have the ability to really articulate my feelings and process my triggers like the way I'm doing right now, be able to express myself in a very vulnerable, authentic manner. It took a really long time to get to this stage because I had to do a lot of healing myself to be able to understand what I was going through, get the lessons from it, gain the experience, get the wisdom and insight to understand what's going on in order for me to help identify the problems for the twin flames. On this journey, you're going to be required to really understand your communication style. How can you improve your communication so that way your twin flame can understand you, you understand your point of view on a deeper emotional level. I can tell you that my twin flame, my real one versus my walk-in twin flame, the journey with my real twin flame in the beginning was very toxic and very dysfunctional. We couldn't really talk that well because he couldn't really understand a lot of things I was telling to him. He would get easily triggered, and I would get easily triggered too, because his body language, the way he spoke was very dysfunctional, very toxic. He would trigger me all the time, and we couldn't really have deep conversation without triggering each other. Now that we're more healed, we can actually have deeper conversation without being triggered so easily. So that's how you can see that this journey is going to help you heal. It's going to help you improve your communication skill, and you're going to be able to be more vulnerable and more expressive with each other. Okay? Now, miscommunication number 2. Most twin flames will have very unhealed states of consciousness. When you have a very unhealed state of consciousness, you're always going to take facts and truths that people share about you as an attack. So what you'll notice that when people who are unhealed, when you tell them facts and truths about them, they can't handle it. They'll take it as you attacking them. They'll take it as you trying to belittle them, judging them, they'll be very hypersensitive to things that you're telling them. But even though they're factual things that you're sharing with them to help them gain awareness, they can't process it because it's too traumatizing. So that's a big sign that you're unhealed. So what you want to do is that if people are sharing their truth to you, their observation, what they notice about you, and you can't handle people's truth, and you are reactive, you're getting traumatized, you're getting triggered, that means you have a lot of healing to do. That means you're sensitive to facts and truth about yourself, especially if it's backed up with like evidence. There's a difference between facts and truth where people are just sharing their point of view, but it's based on an opinion, based on a perception, versus actually telling you observation and backing it up with real life situation and examples. That's when you know that this person is really paying attention to you, and they're observing you closely, and they're giving you specific events and details to support what they're saying. That is coming from a factual place. A lot of people, they don't operate from that state of consciousness. They operate from a place of illusion where they have a perception of you, they have an opinion of you, but it's not necessarily supported by any facts or data. Okay, that's different. So let's be mindful that if you come from an unhealed state of consciousness, you're always going to take other people's facts and truths about you as an attack. So some examples I'm going to share with you is that when I shared to my twin flame my observations about his mental health issues, because he's so unhealed, he always took this as me trying to beat him up, trying to beat on his ego. This is what he always says. He's like, oh, you love beating me up, don't you, Nyla? It's because you always like to hit me with the truth and you say all these things about me. He didn't say the word truth, but he always used the term, you like to beat me up. I wasn't beating him up, actually. I was trying to help raise his awareness of his weaknesses and his deficiencies. Because if you don't solve your weaknesses, your deficiencies, and the flaws, the issues you have within your consciousness, they become a problem and they repeat itself in your life. So this is where all the problems come from, is from your deficiencies. When you have problems in your life, it only comes from weaknesses and deficiencies. It's never from your strength. So if you learn to fix your weaknesses and correct them, then you have less problems in your life. Okay? So that's that's going to be miscommunication number 3. Is that when your counterpart is trying to raise your awareness about your issues or the things that's not working in the connection, if you're unhealed, you're going to have a negative reaction to it. But you have to take it from another point of view, that this person is trying to help you gain awareness about yourself regarding your weaknesses, your flaws, your issues, your deficiencies. And if you are healed, you will actually appreciate them taking the time to raise your awareness of the problems in the connection and the problems within your consciousness. If you don't address these problems and these weaknesses, it's going to be a pattern, and it's going to cycle itself, and it's going to reoccur over and over again. So this is what I do to help a lot of twin flames, is I point out the issues within their consciousness, the flaws, the deficiencies, and the weaknesses. If they're unhealed, they can't process this. They get too triggered, and they have one or two reactions. They either run away, hide, cry, or they go on the defense and they attack. Okay, these are the two typical reactions when they hear certain truths I express about them. So that means that you're very unhealed. You're not able to internalize the information and process it in a mature manner. People who are more emotionally mature, if you express certain truth to them, certain observation, if it triggers them, they'll still internalize it. They may take some time off to process it because it's triggering a lot of wounds in them, but they'll come back and they'll have a healthy, mature conversation with you, and then they'll learn from that experience. This is a more mature way of handling triggers and wounds, right? But people who are unhealed, when you share with them certain truth, certain facts about them, they'll take one of those two reactions. They either run away, hide, cry, or they will get reactive, they become defensive, they'll go on the attack. Okay, so leading me to now miscommunication number 4. Many twin flame will take the passive aggressive route which means that when they get triggered, they get hurt, they just block the other person, they run away, and they just shut down. This is passive aggressive behavior. It doesn't solve anything, because what you've done is that you've run away from your wounds, you run away from your triggers, you don't want to resolve it, which means that it's going to be a trauma in your auric field. You're still vulnerable for psychic attacks. The dark forces will attack that wound you still have in your auric field because you didn't want to resolve it. You took the easy way out, which is to run away from it, and as a result, it's not healed. And when things are not healed, you're weaker as a twin flame. So you're much more vulnerable for attack. So I do this to a lot of twin flames inadvertently when I speak my truth. It's because I'm a very factual person. I speak facts and truth and observation that I see in people. And sometimes they're not positive for a lot of these people to hear about themselves. So as a result, because they can't process what they're feeling, they take the easy way out and they just run away from it. They take the passive aggressive route and they just escape from the pain they're experiencing because it's too traumatic for them. I understand what they're going through, but they can't allow themselves to stay in that state, because that means that you're not healing yourself. You're just running away. You're trying to avoid processing these feelings. What you're supposed to do is that you're supposed to feel it, heal it, and transmute it into light. This is what your mission is to learn how to process and heal all these darker, deeper feelings that you're going through and transmute it into light. I've become very good at doing this, so that now when I feel hurt, it takes me a very short period of time to process what I'm going through, and I release it, and I'm healed very rapidly. Before, it used to take a lot longer, but now I can do this within myself, probably within an hour or so. If I get triggered, I get traumatized, I process it. Sometimes you gotta cry because it's going to be very painful. And it's very important for you to cry. This crying means that you're releasing negative, toxic emotions from your emotional body. It's being transmuted, it's being alchemized through your tears, and it's being released through the physical body. So the negative emotions is being released from the emotional body, coming down to the physical body, and it's being expressed through tears. So it's very important for you to release these negative emotions. When you need to cry, release all this negative energy, so that way you can feel lighter and you can feel better. Now move on to the last miscommunication issue that twin flames have. In this connection, it requires both people to be very vulnerable with each other. If you can't express your vulnerabilities, it's going to be a problem in this connection, because you're always going to be wearing masks, you're going to be pretending, and then it's going to lead to bigger relationship issues. So in this connection, I've come to notice that many twin flames, they have issues expressing their fears, their insecurities, and being authentic with each other. They're hiding, they're lying, and as a result, this leads to more complicated problems in your connection. So in my connection with my twin flame, the first one, the real twin flame, we both had a lot of insecurities, but we didn't express it authentically with each other. And as a result, these insecurities led to the breakdown of our connection because they were not being expressed. We didn't understand each other's point of view, and eventually, it created more problems in our connection. Now, I learned from my experience. So now in this second time I'm going through this twin flame journey with my walk-in twin flame, there has been about 8 things that's come up in this connection already that I see are red flags, that are problems. And normally I'm already checking out when I see so many red flags, and I was actually going to do my typical behavior of checking out and just dumping him. And this is what I normally do in 3D connections. When I see red flags, I just drop the guy. I wouldn't necessarily even tell him what the issues are. I would just dump him. So I was going to do the exact same thing with this walk-in twin flame. I was just going to drop him because there's just too many issues I'm seeing. But I realized that I couldn't continue doing that because this guy is now my twin flame too. He's a walk-in twin flame. So I have to be fair and be considerate of his feelings. So I made it a thing for me to talk about the fears, the insecurities, and the feelings on both sides, because I have awareness now of what they are. And because I have more emotional maturity, I took the initiative to start having this conversation with him to break down both fears and insecurities on both our sides, so that way we can have more understanding with each other, so we can understand each other's point of view and we can resolve these differences so our connection could be stronger and more healthier. So that's helped a lot. Whether he changes his toxic relationship pattern is another thing, which is got to be a different video. Okay, twin flames, they also have a lot of toxic relationship patterns that I have identified. I'm gonna have to make a video in the future about that, because those toxic relationship patterns also sabotage this connection. So now that I've shared with you these 6 very important miscommunication issues in twin flame connection, it's up to you what you want to do with this information. But I know that a lot of twin flames, they struggle with these issues. If you're struggling with these issues, there's going to be another video in my VIP area for twin flames. I'm going to help you guys go through these issues and share with you the solutions, how to overcome these miscommunication issues. Okay, if you'd like to check out the video, visit my website www.3d5d.com. That video will be in the twin flame section, because I have 2 sections on this website. One is for the Ascension side, the other side is for twin flame. Ideally, you really need both sides, because the Ascension side is also very important. But for this particular subject matter, to improve your miscommunications in twin flame connection, it's going to be in the twin flame membership area. With that, I want to thank you for tuning in this broadcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.